they are jailed. They're in the prison. They're not in a holding cell. They're not in, Club Med prison. This is a real deal, the bottom of the prison. And mind you, this is after they have been flogged. And so they're beaten, they're bruised, they're bloody, and they're in the deepest parts of the prison. And the scripture says this in Acts 16:25. About midnight, Paul and Silas, what were they doing? At midnight, Paul and Silas were frustrated and they were mad because they are Christians and they shouldn't be going through this. At midnight, they were frustrated and they were complaining and they were saying, woe is me, where is God? Why has he forgotten me? At midnight, the scripture says Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God. Now, if you read about Paul and you read all of what God had called him to do, you come to a place where you realize Paul was singing hymns to God because of his love for God. This is the same one who said to live is Christ, to die is gain. Either way, what Paul is saying is if I live, I get to tell an unbeliever about Jesus and the grips of hell can be loosed from them. If I die, I get to be in the presence of the Jesus I've been telling everybody about. So either way, I win. So this is the same one that is saying, and he's praying and he's singing hymns to God. He's praying and he's singing hymns to God because he just wants to be in his presence. And as he's praying and he's singing hymns to God, somebody say, then the jail doors, there was a trembling and the jail doors swung open. It was then and only then. What I want you to understand right now is that the presence led to power. It wasn't that there's power that led to his presence. His presence led to power. Paul and Silas were in the bottom of the jail cell, and all they wanted to do was be in the presence of God. I could complain. I could be frustrated. I can throw up my hands and say, God doesn't care about me. God doesn't see me. God, have you seen all the stuff I've done for you? You owe me. They didn't do any of that. They sang and they prayed because they understood that I just want to be in the presence of God for the purpose of being in the presence of God. And God saw that and he knew that they understood that presence comes with power. But you've got to come. You got to come for his presence. In another instance, the king of Edom, Judah, and Jehoshaphat, the king of Israel, feared that they were being handed over to the Moabites by God. And they're in and they're getting ready to go and fight the Moabites. And these three kingdoms have gathered together and said, we're going to go and take out these Moabites. And then they go and they're journeying and they find themselves in the wilderness and they're going in circles. And then somebody says, hey, the horses and all the men are thirsty and they're hungry. Even if we did come about the Moabites right now, we might get slaughtered because we're hungry and we're dying of thirst. And so then King Jehoshaphat and the king of Judah and everybody says, well, maybe God sent us out here to die. Maybe he's sent us out here to hand us over to the Moabites. And so then somebody has a bright idea to say, hey, listen, is there a prophet among us? And then they say, yeah, Elisha. Elisha's here with us. Somebody go get Elisha. Maybe he can give us a word of the Lord. And so they go in to get Elisha. And Elisha comes. And I want to take you there real quick. Elisha comes. And it says in 2 Kings chapter 3, verse 14 through 15. It says this. Elisha said, as surely as the Lord Almighty lives, whom I serve, if I did not have respect for the presence of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, I would not pay attention to you. And then he says this, but now, bring me a harpist. Now they're hungry, y'all, and they're thirsty, and they're concerned about being handed over to the Moabites, and the people want a word from God. Lord, give us your hand. We need you to do something. And Elisha says, hold on. Bring me a harpist. And I can imagine some of the folks saying, we don't need music right now. I'm not trying to hear that. We need food, we need water, and we need to beat the Moabites. And Elisha says, bring me a harpist. Watch this. While the harpist was playing, the hand of the Lord came on Elisha. I want to pause right there. Elisha was in a place where he knew that power only comes from his presence. But he wasn't necessarily coming for the power. He was coming for the presence. Now he knew power would come from that. But if it wasn't about his presence, he wouldn't have said, hey, bring me a harpist because we need to set the atmosphere in here. He wouldn't have said, bring me a harpist because I just need to get into the presence of the Lord. Because I know when I get into the presence of the Lord, then there's going to be power there. But I just want to come for his presence. I know we're in the middle of the wilderness, but bring me a harpist. I just want to get before the Lord. And as a result of that, God called them and gave them the word, make this valley full of ditches. And God filled the ditches with water miraculously. But Elisha understood, before I say what the word of the Lord is, let me just get into his presence first, for the purpose of being in his presence. Watch this. Elisha said, if it weren't for the respect I have for you as king of Judah, I would not pay you any mind. In other words, I'm not overly concerned about what's happening right now. I'm concerned about being in his presence in the midst of all of it. So bring me a harpist. Somebody say the presence of God. The presence of God.